I wanted to put a fine point on something that you said in response to the question from the senator from Pennsylvania about the use of Medicaid funds in the states. Because there are a number of states that do provide programs that have abortion funding. But I think there is a very clear distinction that needs to be made in Medicaid funds, which are matching funds, and none of those funds can be used to fund abortions. And you said that in response to his question, but I think that point needs to be made very clear, because the senator from Pennsylvania was implying that somehow, since states had created programs that fund abortions, and since Medicaid is a federal state program, that somehow those two are being mixed, and that this idea that because they're calling for, quote, segregation, that really doesn't exist in the Medicaid program. The Medicaid program, those are matching funds. That is a federal state program, and the federal dollars that go into the Medicaid program, the prohibition that exists on federal funding of abortions applies to Medicaid dollars that go to the states. To the degree that states have adopted programs that fund abortions, those are state funds and not Medicaid funds, which are matching funds. And that's what the Stupak and other members of the House of Representatives saw, that this created tremendous ambiguity. And they sought to tighten it up and to reinstate what has been longstanding policy with regard to federal funds and their use to finance abortions since 1977 in the Hyde language. And so the Stupak amendment to the House bill, as you recall, passed with 240 votes. There was a sizable, decisive majority of members in the House of Representatives who saw through what the ambiguity that exists with regard to the House bill and now the Senate bill. But this is intentionally ambiguous for the reason that you just mentioned. All this simply does is clarify once and for all what has been standard policy here at the federal level going back to 1977, and as was stated earlier, I believe represents the consensus view in America. Both Republicans and Democrats, I think, believe that this is ground that we all can stand on, irrespective of where people come down on this issue, that the idea that somehow federal funds taxpayer funds ought to finance abortions is something that most Americans disagree with, and that's why I think there has been such broad bipartisan support going back to 1977 for this particular policy, and why it should be extended into the future. And as you said, the senator from Utah said 61%. I've seen polls that suggest it's much higher than that. It'd certainly be much higher than that in my state of South Dakota. But I commend the senator for seeing his way to offer an amendment that clarifies and removes all this ambiguity and what to me is clearly intentional ambiguity with regard to this issue and the underlying bill.